Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be working on this 1970 120. Gonna have to get it running. It is a factory green tractor. The engine is not stuck, but it won't turn very far. Hear it hitting. I've already found the problem. Somebody wasn't real good at driving a forklift or a skid steer with the forks and bent all this in. So I'm gonna try to pop the starter off and bend all this out. Additionally, front grill's missing. I'll just put another one on it. Front line's capped off and the front bumper is gone. Clutch pedal, a little bit bent. This was bent. I straightened it when I was loading it. Somebody backed it into something or ran into it with something. Backstanded in. Again, we can fix that. It has been repainted. You can see the different colors in paint there. I'm hoping to be able to get this thing running and sell it. It came with another tractor I bought that I wanted, and I'm going to try and sell this and get my money back for both of them. As you see, things have been happening. I guess the guy bought it for the PTO because it's missing the PTO in the switch. Fortunately, it does still have this, which I will probably keep for mine. It's not going to make no difference because, well, there's nothing. So, yeah. First things first, we're going to have to dig into this, get that fixed, then we can toss a battery in it and see if it'll turn over. They went a little crazy on this tin. We're going to ignore that though. So let's pop this starter off, see if we can bend all this out enough the engine can turn. Let's also check the oil. It's low, naturally. Alright, so before we get too far, we'll do that. It also came with a mower deck. Let me show you that. They had this Cub Cadet mower deck on it. No idea what this is for. If you know, let me know. Not sure if I'll sell the deck separately or with the tractor. Probably just sell it separately. Take this John Deere thing off. And that is welded on, unfortunately, so I'll either have to cut it off or leave it on there. But yeah, this was on that tractor. I'll put a picture of it here so you can see. So there's no way to get in from this side to unbend this. There's no way to get in from this side to unbend this. I can't pry this out far enough to get in there. And so I think I'm gonna have to take this engine out because there's no way to get this tin off with the engine in. See, we go right up against the frame there, and there's two bolts underneath of this engine that I can't get to. So I think we're just gonna have to pull the engine. Instead of screwing around trying to do something else, I'm just gonna do it real quick. Pop the gas tank off. I might be able to leave the battery box in. 4 bolts out of the bottom, drive shaft, wiring, cables. We should be able to yoink this out. So I'm gonna toss you guys in the stand in a time lapse, and let's get this thing done. So it appears the person who owned it was pretty big on running into it with things, because there, along with here, so both sides of the engine got it. Thankfully it does not look like they put any holes in the casing or in the block of the engine. They also hit this. You can see it's bowed in pretty badly. They ran into the back. They ran into it right here. So whoever owned this was not very careful with it. Didn't really seem to care about it. Front main does not look like the problem why this thing's covered in oil. So it's probably the rear. Technically this is the front main, this is the rear main, but this is the front of the tractor, this is the rear of the tractor. So looks like we'll need a new coil. Not even going to try and run that the way that looks. And while it's out, we should do some cleaning up. Try and clean up some of the inside of the frame also. But let's get this shroud off here first. See how bad it is behind the shroud and get that fixed. So that all came out of the shroud already. There's a little bit more in here. This shroud weighs quite significantly more than it should. So let's scrape some of that crap out. Well, I just came up here and spun the engine. That's not what you want. It has zero compression. It's low on oil. And so I think it's blown up. That's not good. I was hoping to be able to get this thing running and get my money back out of both tractors. So I got to decide. Do I want to do a quick and dirty engine rebuild? Just throw a rod in it, some rings, or what do I want to do? I gotta do some thinking, look into some parts, and I'll bring you guys back and let you know what I decide. Alright, I drained the oil, set this on here. You guys saw some of the oil draining. The metal's starting to settle out of it, but it's still got quite a bit. There was some chunks. I've got this piston and rod from the 212. I'm going to use this rod, use the piston out of that, buy a new set of rings and a gasket kit, and not rebuild this, but make it not blown up. So now we got to take this all the way apart. I'm not going to touch any of the cam, the valves, anything like that. Only this side. And I will probably take a look at the governor just to make sure it's not a problem. So let's start yanking this apart. even want to look inside. I hope that's piston. Those are definitely rings. Oh no. The rod is fine. They actually broke the piston. I don't think I've ever seen that. Well, let's get this piston out of here. Take the rod out. Get all of this out of here. So I apparently forgot to hit record. I just knocked that out of here. And no surprise to me, this bore is a bit chewed up. I think it could be honed. I'm not feeling anything like super deep in it. Just a lot of chunks. But I've never seen a piston do this. It broke the bottom of the piston off. So, now I've got to change what I'm going to do yet again. And after kind of looking at this board looks really good. It almost looks like, and I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but it almost looks like there's a little bit of what's left of cross-hatching in it. So I took this over to the wire wheel to see if my suspicion was correct, and it was. This engine was rebuilt. They didn't torque the head studs more than likely. Blew out the head gasket. And they bought a junk rebuild kit, I would bet. And that's why this piston failed. So, this rod might be good, but I don't think I'm going to use it. I will need to figure out if this rod is 10 over, or 10 under, I mean. Don't remember where they stamped the rods. This rod has a little bit of use on it, it appears. But I don't see a size stamp on it. So it's probably standard. 2. Don't know. Not sure if this is a good sign or a bad one. I will have to do some checking. Come down here, crankshaft. There's some green paint. So it appears that they redid this when they painted it. So it could have been a long time ago. But it has been sitting probably 20 years, I think. That looks kind of machined. Maybe not. So I'll have to figure out if it's got a different size rod or not. Check this number out. See if this is a good rod or not. If I'm able. And then I can probably just hone this engine. New piston and rings. And be good to go. Alright y'all, it's next day. What I've determined is that this rod is good, but it's way under 10 under. So I cannot buy a new rod. Reasonable at least. I was not able to find one. I tried to put the stock size rod from the 212 in here just to see how much bigger it was. And it was way bigger. I'll put the video right here. So what I am going to do is reuse this rod. I don't really like it because it's got some wear on it, but I tried it, and with no oil in there, it's not loose at all. It's tight like it should be. So I went ahead and ordered a new piston to replace this one. ordered a new 20 over piston and a gasket kit. And I am going to not rebuild this, but fix it. My other suspicion was that it might have done that because it was over revving, because maybe the governor was bad, and I was able to move the T shaft a little bit. So while I'm waiting for all that stuff that should be coming, I'm going to pull the crank out, cam out, governor out, and the T shaft out and check it and make sure that I'm not going to put it together and have a bad governor issue. So didn't really want to take all that stuff out, but oh well. So let's start pulling things apart. I just found the cause of our oil leak. Put the socket on here, test the size. And this is loose. So they put the bearing plate on and never tightened it up. That's why it was leaking so bad. So lovely. Let's keep pulling her apart. It's a good thing I decided to check this. I didn't turn this any direction yet. Whoever rebuilt this engine wasn't big on tightening bolts up. Alright, I got this out. So the T shaft, the T is solid, it does not wiggle anywhere. But look, I wonder if this is never sees or metal shavings. Kind of seems like never sneeze. So I didn't need to take this apart, but it's better that I did and didn't need to than didn't and did need to. So this T shaft is good. This governor is good, the way you test that. The only thing this does is when you have these apart, push that down, it should bring them in. So I hold a little bit of pressure against them and pushing the button. Seems to be alright. There's not a whole lot of wear. Seems good. So I can put this all back together now. I just wanted to be 100% sure that I wasn't going to put this engine back together, start it, and have it run away and blow up again. I don't know if this would have caused a problem immediately being loose, but it was definitely going to cause a problem. So I'm super glad that I caught it and I'm able to fix it before it got too bad. Everything's loose on this, so somebody must have been real not big on tightening stuff up. But anyway, I'm going to start putting stuff back together now, since I know it's all good. And then we're going to do some cleaning on this, because this engine's pretty dirty. Alright, you saw me tone the engine, got some cross hatching back, and just put the crank in, timed it. See the little dot on the cam gear and that little line on the crank? Those need to be lined up, which they are perfectly there. Now you see, here's the compression stroke right here. This is top dead center. It would come down. The exhaust valve should open now. There it goes. Intake valve. When the crank's going back down, the intake valve will be open to pull in fuel. Now it'll come up and fire, go back down, and exhaust valve again. timed correctly. Everything's doing what it's supposed to do. So this is as far as I'm going to be able to go as far as together before I have the gasket kit, because obviously these gaskets are, well, non-existent. So I'm going to clean up some gasket surfaces, clean up this surface, and I'll bring you back when I get some pieces parts. Alright, got all the gasket surfaces on the block cleaned up. Cleaned a bunch of the dirt off. Not sure what that is. Almost looks like somebody tried to patch it, but I don't feel any holes inside, so I'm going to ignore it. Didn't get all the dirt off. Not terribly worried about it. I did get as much as I could out of the fins. Probably won't take any of that off, except obviously the points cover. None of it's leaking, none of it's a problem. As you see, there is a little bit of scoring in here that I was not able to take out by honing it. I don't want to go too crazy, but it is quite a bit better than it was. And you see there's still some dirt and oil and stuff in it. I'll have to clean it out one more time before I put the piston back in. But we're on our way to being back together. I think it's time to start going through the procedures that I would have had to go through in order to get this engine to run. So I'm going to pull the carburetor. Of course, the air cleaner. Ooh. And okay. That'll have to get cleaned out too. Ugh. That poor engine had to run with this in it. That'll be going directly in the junk. Not sure why that got added on there, but okay. Gonna yoink this stuff here off. We'll go through and rebuild the carburetor. Toss it back on here. And then I'm gonna pop the points cover off. And we'll put new points condenser on it. The condenser will go on with the coil. And I'll get a used coil to put on it, probably. Don't know that I've got a new one to put in it. And then we ought to be able to drop this thing back in the tractor, of course, once it's together. And clean out the fuel tank, put a new fuel line on it, and be about ready to fire it up. So I'm going to keep working on this stuff here. Alright y'all, we're back on the 120. Today is Saturday. Finally got my piston and rings and my gasket kit. Here's the rings, instructions, wrist pin, clips, and piston. $20 over. Got the right thing. Let's stick the rings on here. We'll clean up the rod, put the piston and rod back in. Oh, before we do that, let's put this gaskets on here and put the bearing plate on. Alright, we're back a couple weeks later with the correct piston this time. Back to where we left off. I just put it all together and I'm ready to smack that down in, put the end cap on, and then we can put the head gasket on and flywheel and keep going together. So, sorry for the delay. This is a 14 horse, not a 12 horse like it's supposed to be. Should have checked, didn't even think about it, wasn't thinking it was the wrong engine, but it is. So, just learn from my mistakes. Before you order parts, always check your engine number. It is cast right in the back. I don't know if you guys will even be able to see it. Right there it says K321. K321 is a 14 horse, even though this is supposed to be a 12. So just always check. I didn't, and now I'm 2-3 weeks behind. So let's finally finish getting this together and get started on something else. Alright, you guys saw it, it's back together. Got a coil on, put the starter back on. All the bolts in that are tightened back down. It should be ready to be dropped back in the tractor. It's got a new air filter, new condenser, new points, new plug. This is a used coil that tested good, it appears. My meter doesn't work very well, I need to get a new one. I just have a cheap one from Sears. And it should be better than it is because it's Craftsman. But this thing has been a giant piece of turd. So it's going to have to be junked and I'm going to have to get a better one. But it seems to have showed that this coil is decent. So this is in an easy enough place to switch out. If the coil ends up being bad, we'll just give her a different coil. But I think it'll be good, and yeah, like I said, this engine is ready to be dropped back in. This will be a problem though. This was the coil wire. They had it mounted right here, and I wanted it over here more. Bit of a pain to get to right here with the carburetor in the way and all. So I'm gonna have to snip this wire and lengthen it and run it up over here to this terminal, to the positive. I also need to find some nuts for this coil. It didn't have any. But I think once I do this, I'm going to drop this engine in. I want to check spark, and make sure it'll turn over at the same time. So I'm going to hit the key and see what happens. Uh-oh. So I don't know if you guys saw that, but as soon as I turn the key to start, it gives me spark, like blinking. And I've just never seen that before. So, sure, okay. Also, it won't turn over with the key, so that's good. Alright, so it just occurred to me, hey stupid, is this pushed in? The answer is no, it was not. Okay, sure. So, watch this. It's clear that this battery is real charged up, but now we've got spark and it turns over. Alright y'all, did the fuel system, turn that on, charge the battery some, still don't have a draw. Let's see if this thing will fire up for the first time in who knows how long. Ooh. I'm gonna leave that in there. Choke didn't work very well. Figured out why this thing won't start. If you look down in here, right there, you can just barely see it. There's a hole in the top of the head where it appears that they blew the piston or the plug out and JB welded it back in. Right there, you see that little spot right there, kind of at the end of my finger, shadow right there. That's a hole. There's compression blowing out there. So I either need to JB weld that some or put a new head on this. So yay, I get to decide what to do with that now. Alright y'all, as you saw a minute ago, right there is a hole in the head. That's why we're not able to get it started. I'm not going to show you much, but I parted this engine out yesterday that was supposed to be a 16 horse, according to the tag. It isn't, so we're going to use its head, because it is a 9-bolt head. The 16 horse has a 10-bolt head, so this head will fit. So we're going to yoink the head off of this as quickly as we can, because we got to get this tractor done. It needs to be done and sold and out of here. I've got too many projects, and I need to get this thing finished up. So we're going to yank this off real quick, put that head on, and then hopefully it'll start up. Give it a tiny bit of throttle. Alright, does not run the best. I did remember the carb is not adjusted for 14 horse. I rebuilt it for 12, so I'll have to readjust on that before we go too much further. It will not move, and I checked the dipstick. It is empty, so I am going to find some oil and put it in there. I'm hoping it's just low enough that it isn't wanting to move and it's not the valves, but we'll find out. I'll bring you back in a few. The hell? Lost power. I think this key switch is not working real good. Look here, key switch. I think our whole issue is the key switch, guys. It works, and then it doesn't work, and then it works, and then it doesn't work. I don't see any issues in the wiring. Okay, everybody place your bets. Let's see if it'll crank again. Nope, not yet. That's a little bit better progress. Instead of screwing with it, I just hot wired it. Got a wire run from the coil to the hot on the battery, and I just put the lone wolf on there. It's got some sort of electrical issue. I'm not going to get into it. My best guess would be that it needs a key switch. Something's up right there. That is because of that crappy head gasket we use. It does run. It definitely needs a head gasket done right. Possibly even that head machined. But it does run and it drives really good. The transmission is super strong. It's stronger than 3 of my 4140s. You see when I kind of yoinked it back, I spun the tire a little, but you probably saw that. So this has a really good transmission in it. It does have a slight leak. Sat here for about a week. You see it left a little bit on the ground in the shop. So it needs a head gasket, and it looked like it was kind of just like leaking out of the filter maybe, so that might be loose. So I'm sure a good service would go a long way on this thing, but that's where I'm going to leave off. I'm not going to do anything else with it. I need to get it sold so that I can get other projects in the shop. I got lots of things to do. So if you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button down below. And subscribe if you haven't already. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever on this tractor, let me know. And as you see, it does have the normal 120, 140 creep. It's staying pretty still right there. It's not in there. So, again, thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you guys on the next one.